Hi everyone, Sabrina here, and today I'll be showing you the first 5 cards I made using the Hero Arts February card kit. So here I'm just showing you the stamps and the dies that came in the kit, and then you get 3 inks, 2 nest embellishments, and a few sheets of wood grained paper. So for my first card, I wanted to build a scene, and I did find that with this kit it was a little bit difficult trying to make a scene with the stamps alone. With this card I managed to do it, but I think I do end up pulling in a few of my supplies because, I don't know, I wasn't a fan of this kit, and I noticed that a lot of YouTubers passed on this kit. So that's the main reason I decided to post this card kit anyway, because I know it's a week late, but I know a lot of people probably purchased this kit. It wasn't sold out, but I know there wasn't a lot of inspiration on YouTube, and the stamp set's really versatile to work all year round. So I decided to post my 10 cards. Like I said, I felt a bit limited with it. There wasn't a lot of stamps to build scenes with. There was nothing to color. But I do end up liking the cards that I make. And I do like that the stamp set had, I think, like 13 or, I don't know, maybe more than that, sentiments. So I did get quite a bit of variety with, like, in terms of different types of cards with this kit. And anyway, so now I'm going to stamp some flowers for my branches. And I'm just going to stamp them in some orange ink, and I also will stamp the butterfly and the leaf with pink and green ink. I do stamp that out 3 times. I like to have more than I need so that I don't have to bring out all my supplies if I need to stamp more. So, and you'll see later on, I get tired of using my MISTI, and I do pull in my stamp block. It's pretty easy to realign the birds. I didn't find that to be a problem. So here is my branches, and everything is cut out. The idea was to have a tree off to the side with the branches coming out, and I decided to angle the branches differently and have them at different heights so that they didn't all look like the same stamp. And so now I'm just placing my flowers and my butterflies where I want them. You see that I have music notes above the bird, but I felt like, I don't know, to me that bird wasn't singing, so I did end up taking the music notes off, and I'll use it in card number 2. Alright, and then I wanted a sentiment. I choose Hi There. I think that was my favorite sentiment in the kit. And then I just stamp it in the bottom corner. You can see that I didn't stamp it very well, so I'll just go in with a black marker and fill in the white spaces. And then I do put black centers in my flowers. And then here, I use some 3-in-1 to attach my branches. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not a good paper glue. It's better for if you're making window cards or acetate or pop-up cards, like pop-up box cards, when you need little sticks to hold things up. But it's not a good glue for flat cards. For card 2, I took the paper that held the stamps and dies together in the kit, and as soon as I saw the paper, I thought of the short Pixar film with the birds on the power lines talking to each other. I think it was in the beginning of a Toy Story movie. And yeah, so that's what I thought of. So here, those little brown rectangles, those are going to be the posts on my power line. And then here I'm deciding which birds to use. And I'll have them just sitting on the wire. And I do stamp all 3 birds in VersaFine black onyx ink, and this ink is also good for conditioning your stamps. But I did have to stamp. And then I'll just pour over some clear embossing powder because VersaFine takes so long to dry. And I'll die cut those, and then now I'm using some embroidery floss to make that my wire for the power line. And I don't like the look of frayed edges, so I decided to turn my panel around and use some washi tape. Okay, then I'll arrange my birds. This actually ended up being my favorite card. I thought it turned out pretty cute, and it looks a bit masculine too. Well, I guess not, because I'm adding bows. I thought that would be a nice touch, even though real power lines don't have bows. And then I'm going to pick out a sentiment. I choose Chirping You On. But first I'm going to glue down the music notes because I felt like it made them look like they were talking to each other, or singing to each other, I guess. So for the sentiment, like I said, I chose Chirping You On, and I'll emboss that on black paper using white embossing powder. All my embossing powders are from Michaels, usually the Recollections embossing powders. I find that they're really good. They are detailed, so. Okay, and then I'll heat set that. And guys, look what I did. I always do this too. I don't know why. I never learn. But you have to let it cool before you try to wipe off any excess powder. So I did go ahead and off camera stamped and cut a new sentiment. And I just cut my own banner with scissors. And so I glued down the left and the right hand bird, and I wanted to pop up the middle bird. And then as I was doing this, I realized that my power line doesn't really look like a power line, so I went outside and looked at one, and I saw that they sort of have these notches coming out of the sides. And so I'm going to take more of that brown wood-grained paper, and I'll make 2 notches on each side of the post, and I feel like that definitely made it look more like a power line. So here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. And again, glue that down with 3-in-1. And that's my completed panel. I will go ahead and glue that down to my 110-pound Neenah card base. Oh, and I didn't use the nest embellishments that came in the kit. I felt like they were too bulky, and I sell my cards, so I just felt like it couldn't be mailed unless it was in a bubble envelope, so people don't always do that, so I decided to pass on those nests. But anyway, that completed card number 2. For card number 3, I did pull in a memory box die. It's just a scallop circle. I'm gonna cut a small white scallop. That is actually out of Neenah. And then here I'm showing you I made a frame with pink, but later on I changed it to purple because I felt like there was no other pink on my card, so I did recut that in purple. Alright, so I did take a flower stamp from my stash and stamped a flower. And then using the same technique from the first card, I'm going to stamp my hummingbird. I was looking at pictures and I saw that they kind of have a pinkish red belly. So from last month's kit, I took a few of the colors and stamped my bird, but I didn't like how it turned out. I felt like the colors were too muddy and too dark, so now I'm gonna try again. I do this a few times, and actually with a lot of my cards I found that I had to sometimes restamp images because they either wouldn't blend well or they weren't stamped the way I liked it. So off camera there's a lot more birds than than you see in this video. But I do like how this one turned out. And I found that if you want the colors to blend more, first stamp the way I showed you, and then go over your lightest color. So in this case it was the blue, and that kind of helps fill in the white spots and blend the colors a bit more. So I really like that color combination, and I felt like I could use the feathers and make it look like the hummingbird lost some of its feathers. So using the same colors, the same technique, I will stamp those feathers. And then here, this was actually a better method. When you first go over all the colors, so blue, green, purple, red in this case, and then I would go back and do red, purple, green, blue on the opposite direction. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I felt like I got a better blend that way, and from this point on, that's how I stamp all of these further images. Okay, and then like I said, sometimes I just go over it all with blue again to help it blend. So, to add more to the feathers, I take my white pen and just sort of scribble on some lines. And then I also put a few white dots onto my hummingbird just to make it stand out a little bit, since they were all the same color. Okay, and then I'll just glue that hummingbird over the one that I did not like. Alright, so my flower, I wanted to color in the purple, so this was actually from last month's kit. And I just used my water brush and color it in. This paper is not watercolor paper, so that's why it kind of looks blotchy, but as it dries, it looks a lot better. And then this flower didn't have a stem, so I had to draw my own. And then I also went over the flower to make it more dark, I guess, to make it stand out. And then to color in the stem, I'll use the green ink that came in the kit. And again, use my watercolor brush to color it in. Okay, so that's my completed scene, I guess. Like I said, I had to pull in some other products to create a lot of these cards. Alright, so there's my purple frame I was talking about. I'm just going to glue down some acetate. And then when I put the frame on top of the scene, I felt like there was too much white space and that there had to be something else. So here is a lawn fawn die. It's just a fence. And in between the acetate and the frame, I placed that fence in, just to make it more look like an outdoorsy, I don't know, I just felt like it added something. Alright. And so now I'm just trying to arrange my frame. I don't know why I put that purple thing down. You don't need it, and it's actually kind of difficult to place your frame back on it because it doesn't exactly align. So I took off that purple panel, and right now it looks like a hot mess, but after it's all glued down, it actually turned out to be one of my favorite cards. Alright, so here's my feathers. I felt like they were too big to be in a cluster, so I do end up spreading them all around the frame. And then here I'm going to add my sequins in. And this is from Recollections. It has different little sequins, so I used hearts and stars in this case. And then I'll take some Scotch 3M and double layer that. I find that this tape is the best for kind of manipulating the tape around a circle. And then I'll place that down onto my card panel. And then I shake it and I realize I don't have enough sequins in there. I don't know why I always do this. I don't know why I am so stingy with my sequins, because that bottle is gonna last me like a lifetime. So I did open a notch up towards the top and added a few more sequins, and I liked that. Okay, and then here I'm going to arrange my feathers. I love this card so much, like specifically the feathers, that my next card I'm going to do the same exact technique with the feathers but make a background. Alright, so I'm going to glue those down. Tuck in some of the foam tape that was exposing, and I'm going to pick out a sentiment. I think I choose Hi There again. And I was going to put it in the corner there, but I felt like it would be really bare and random to put it there, so I do stamp it on one of the feathers using some Onyx Black ink again. And then, like I said, I saw my cards, so I have to make sure that they don't smush in the mail. So I'm just going to add some foam tape to the back of the exposing feathers, you know, that like are just kind of hanging there, just so that there's some stability and it won't fall off in the mail or crumple up, I guess. Okay, and that will complete card number 3. I really like how that one turned out. Okay, so for card number 4, like I said, I'm going to use those feathers and create a background, but first I wanted to have a purple frame. This is the same purple that was around the scalloped frame on the last card. And then I'll take a Neenah panel. This is a little bit smaller than the purple. And then I'm going to use my Misty for this. And very randomly, I will place these feathers. I do pull in the last feather. And then here I'm going to condition. That stamp that I just added wasn't conditioned, so I did add the Versamark. And then again, I'll go over the blue, and then the green, and then the purple, and a little bit of the red. And then I go in the opposite direction. And I find that you get a much better blend that way. And my inks weren't contaminated, which was good. As long as you go from lightest to darkest, I think it's fine. Alright, and then I'm going to twist and turn some of my stamps to give it the more random look. And do the exact same thing. I think I only show you half of this background, simply for time reasons. I do end up, using the same technique, so. And then I place my ink in different ways. I don't always place the red part on the left side or the blue part on the left side. I do mix up the direction of the inks as well. Okay. And then I try not to think about it when I make backgrounds, because I find that the more random it looks, the better. Alright, and then I decided to take some vellum. I felt like that would ground my panel more. And I was originally going to stamp my sentiment on the vellum, but as I was putting my sentiment there, I felt that it was too small for that huge vellum strip. So you'll see what I'll do. I wanted to use that bird. So using the same inks, I wanted it to look like this was the bird with all the feathers in the background. So exact same technique. First I'll condition it, and then I'll add the 4 inks. And then, like I said, if I see the white spots, I like to go over it with just the blue. And it was pretty easy to realign. And then I wanted this bird to stand out from the rest of the feathers, so I decided to put some clear embossing powder. And heat emboss the bird. So after I hit that with my heat tool, I'll go ahead and die cut the bird. And I kind of wish before I added the embossing powder, I wish I added some Wink of Stella to make it shiny, but it's okay. Or to make it shimmery, I guess. Alright, and so to attach my vellum, I'm just going to place tape on the top, because that gray strip you see towards the left, I'm going to place on top and cover. So I felt like this strip was better to use with the sentiment. And that's also the gray wood grain that came in the kit. And then I'll just emboss that with some white embossing powder. The sentiment I used is Feel Better Soon. And then using the scallop that came out of the frame that we made in the second card, I decided to ground that for my bird because I felt like without it, it sort of blended into the feathers. I really like how this card turned out. Alright, so I'm just going to add glue to the bottom part because I want to pop up my sentiment in that scallop piece with some foam tape. Okay, and now I'm just making sure it's straight. And then I also decide to pop up my bird. And then I'll add it to my purple frame. So this card has a lot of dimension to it. And then I add double-sided tape to my purple panel. And glue that down to my card base. And that will complete card number 4. I like how that one turned out. For card number 5, I wanted to again create a scene. What I was going for with this card was I wanted it to look like there was a nest inside of a tree. So I used that same scallop die, and I'm going to use the negative and positive part. But I wanted it to look like they were inside a little hole inside of a tree. So you'll see what I'm going to do to give it that look. But first I'm going to cut the green leaf die that came in the kit and then also the nest die. And then I'll use some of the blue ink that came, and I'm going to use this to cut out some blue jay eggs. And I think I cut out 3 of those. And originally I wanted the mama bird and the papa bird to look like the eggs, but I just felt like it was too much blue. So later on I do off camera stamp the birds with red and yellow inks. Again, using the same technique, but I use different colored inks. Alright, so in order to make it look like the hole is kind of sunk into the tree, I'm going to pop up this brown panel. And then this is my ultra sticky tape. So once this is down, it's not coming off. Okay, and then I will just place that centerpiece back inside. Using some double-sided tape. I would actually recommend using glue in case you don't align it perfectly, and that way you can kind of twist it and it'll give you more time. Because as you can see here, I'm having a bit of trouble aligning it. And you can see some white space, but A lot of it gets covered up, so it didn't really bother me. Alright, so this die was made in a way that you can tuck things into it, so I'm just going to tuck 3 eggs, and I did add some spots on it because I guess blue jays, or I don't know, they have like spots on the eggs, so I did add that with a black pen. And so again, tuck things in. And then while I'm doing this, I realized that there's a lot of blue and a lot of brown on this card. And I felt like the blue wasn't really sticking out. So like I said, I'm going to stamp one bird in red and one bird in a bright yellow. And I did do that off screen. Alright, and then I popped my nest up. And I'm also going to pop up my red bird. Sorry, I'm a bit off camera here. And the red bird I used last month's kit's inks. And the yellow bird, I think I used some Distress Oxide inks. And for the belly of that bird, I did use the brown ink that came in this month's kit. Alright, and I felt like that popped out more, and it added some color. Alright, so here I'm deciding what stamp set to use. And I decide on thanks. Oh, first I'm going to stamp the music notes. I really felt like that bird in the back looked like it was singing, so I did add that. And now I'll add my sentiment. And I'm going to heat emboss that with white. And be careful, this wood grain is sort of difficult to stamp on. I was lucky every time I did this, luckily, so that's good. Alright, and here I'm trying to make my heat tool hot because it's already glued down. And I don't want the tape to buckle up in the bottom. Alright, and then I want to add shimmer to my eggs and my birds and also that little heart. And the heart came in the set as well. And then I add glossy accents. And that will complete card number 5. I really like all 5 cards that I made. Let me know which one's your favorite. This one with the birds on the power line is my favorite. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoy making these videos, and I just saw the release for the March kit and I am pretty excited about it. So I will make 10 cards using the March kit as well. And part 2 for this kit I hope to have on tonight. If not, I will have it tomorrow, which will be March 7th. And anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!